The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
you're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host. That's not what we wanted. We want that right there. I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Tuesday, January 16, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. Let me get myself into shot. As always, you could join the conversation by weighing in on the discussion, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter in the chat rooms. I'm going to depart from some of my normal coverage that I normally do. For the most part, I like to stay in American politics, foreign policy, things like that. But today is kind of a requirement that I step out of my normal coverage and talk about a couple of things that, again, that I normally would not talk about and normally don't want to talk about. Just want to check something here. Bear with me 1 second. Policy, things like that. Okay. Decent enough. A couple of the audio problems here this morning, which is why I'm starting late. But I think you can get the message loud and clear. Let's, actually, I want to start with Tommy Sotomayor. Tommy Sotomayor, if you're in the YouTube space, you've heard of this clown, this guy. I'm not going to put a picture up. We'll probably cover him this afternoon. I had an entire agenda of what I wanted to talk about in terms of some things that's happening out of California, oil spill in the South China Sea, DACA, and President Trump trying to make a deal with a Democrat, holding the Dreamers hostage, the type of things that I normally like to talk about. And I'm going to do my best to do this without profanity, simply because I have people who watch my stuff with their kids and listen to my stuff at their church. So I'm going to do my best to not use any profanity. But Tommy Sotomayor is the quintessential Uncle Ruckus, Clayton Bigsby, self-hating, self-loathing black man who realized early on that there's a wonderful market on YouTube for black people who will attack, if not all black people, they will attack black women. If you're a black man who's willing to attack black women, you can score big dollars on YouTube. It's just a proven fact. This is the nature of YouTube. And let me take this out of my ear so I don't have to hear that. The volume is very low. Okay, I'm gonna crank it up a little bit for you guys. And hopefully it's not too loud at this point. So Tommy Sotomayor, again, let me repeat, is this guy who learned very quickly that there's a huge market on Facebook, on YouTube rather, for people who attack black women specifically. It's not too loud at this point. Yes. Okay. So it's not too loud. All right. Getting back to the core message. Tommy Sotomayor is a part of that cabal of black people who find success in attacking black people in general, but black women specifically. And a viewer of mine many years ago tried to get me to connect with Tommy Sotomayor, and this was before I had any following, before I made any connections. But I knew who this guy was. I knew his work. I knew the type of person that he was. And so I vehemently just refused to do any work with Tommy Sotomayor at the request of one of my viewers who was soliciting Tommy to pick me up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the last thing I would have done, I would rather work the long way and the hard way around, pretty much like I did. So the reason I'm talking about Tommy this morning is because he actually fits into the conversation about this Hotep civil war that's going on in a tangential way. But specifically, Tommy Sotomayor, out of all the work that I've done, out of all the work that I've called out Donald Trump, all the work that I've called out that he could have attacked, this small penis of a man decided to wait until I worked with a black woman to attack our work. Now, on Facebook, we've had plenty of videos that have gone viral in terms of what we do for Like It or Not in content news. We have videos that are in the 3 millions. I have like at least 4 videos that are 1.5 million views each. Rebecca, my co-anchor, she's had videos in the 1.2 million. So we've had a lot of work that has hit a lot of people's radar. On YouTube, we've had videos in the hundreds of thousands, 500,000, et cetera, et cetera. So we've had a lot of work that has hit the radar. But this man decided to get a video of Rebecca calling out Donald Trump for his shithole comments, and decided to attack her for her substance and attack her for her hair, refer to her as a bitch. And I got your bitch, Tommy. Sorry, I know I said I was going to cuss, so sorry for the folks who are listening with their kids, but I got your bitch, Tommy. And she could speak for herself, but I just want to point out the fact, and I'm sure she's going to speak for herself later on this afternoon, but I am simply amazed at the cowardice of this man who waits until, you know, because Tommy, we've been here all this time. I've been here all this time. I've been on YouTube. I've been on Facebook. I know you know my work because you've been in my mentions before with all the people who tried to connect us previously. I never wanted to work with you because I never liked, you don't actually do work. You sit in your room and you troll, right? And you're successful at it because, again, there is a tremendous market. Congratulations. There is a tremendous market on YouTube for black men who will attack black women. And if that's the route that you want to go, that's fine. But just realize, man, people, game, recognize game. We could see right through who and what you are. And again, 9 times out of 10, I would ignore this type of thing. But it's just so comical to me that all of a sudden he picks on the black woman in the equation when all these years that he's known my work, I've seen his work, he's seen my work, people try to connect us, and I just ignored him. Quite frankly, all these years, this cat says nothing about my anti-Trump coverage, which is pretty thorough and pretty robust, but he wants to come after the black woman who is added to our team, or who is a part of our team, not added to, she's been a part of our team at Content News, Like It or Not. So Tommy, listen, man, you've got my mention, you got my handle on Twitter, you got ways of getting up with us. Feel free, my brother, to reach out to me and say whatever it is that you got to say directly to me. But your shtick is tired, but it's always going to pay the bills because there is a nice big group of white people who will support and stand behind a black man. If he doesn't attack all black people, that's okay. Just make sure them black women are in place. That's your entire shtick, my brother. And, you know, congratulations. I mean, I think it's enough that you bought you a house, and your house looks pretty empty from the last time I saw it. You know, did your Coon TV cribs, you know, so it looks like it's a lonely existence that you have. But just on the merits of it, man, one thing I can't stand is if you're talking about the realm of toxic masculinity, what I can't stand is a man who has to attack a woman when he had plenty of opportunities to come after the brother. I just don't understand that. Like, if we're going to operate in toxic masculinity, then, you know, Tommy, what's up, man? You've always known how to get over me. But I see you as really nothing more than a 2-bit con man who hates black women. I don't know. Maybe your mama beat you silly when you were younger. She clearly didn't put lotion on you because you've been an ashy nigga all your life. But, you know, besides that, be careful what you ask for, my dude, because you really don't want it with Rebecca. You don't want it with Like It or Not Content News. And you most certainly don't want it with Benjamin Dixon and the Progressive Army. You better look us up. Your YouTube views don't translate into the real world. Your YouTube views don't translate into a substantive conversation, into support beyond YouTube. The YouTube world will fool you and have you acting like a clown when in reality you have just this one small bubble of success. And this actually transcends the conversation about Tommy. It's like, don't let social media fool people into thinking that simply because you're successful on Twitter or you're successful on Facebook or you're successful on YouTube, you know, YouTube has the ability to pull the rug right from underneath your carpet. right? The carpet from right underneath your feet. So does Facebook. So all of these people who are reveling in their moment of success because they know how to play to the YouTube base or they know how to play to the Facebook base, do realize that that has a lifespan and you cannot transcend that audience. The limitations of your success, Tommy, is YouTube. That's it. I mean, who's paying for you to come speak to them? Who's buying your books? Who even knows your name outside of YouTube? Matter of fact, I apologize to my audience for even introducing you to this guy, because now many of you are going to go and look him up, and you look him up and realize exactly the small bubble that he exists in. But, you know, it creates a ruckus on YouTube, and we do our work on YouTube as well as Facebook, as well as Twitter. So we unfortunately have to give voice to it. But, you know, we know how to handle ashy niggas around here, Tommy. So if you ever come to the conversation, I will bring you some lotion and chapstick, and we can handle it that way. All right. That being said, let's go to, sorry, I had to put the petty stuff up front. Let's go to the Hotep Civil Wars. There is always a competition in the black community for who's going to be the voice of black America, number one, and then who's going to be the voice of black America to white America. That's a totally different category. In the competition of the voice of black America to white America, you had the most recent spat between Cornel West and Ta-Nehisi Coates. I addressed that they're not Hoteps. I'm just mentioning them because as I draw this parallel between the black voice to white America, that would be Cornel West and Ta-Nehisi Coates would be the most recent rivalry. Right now, there is a civil war in the Hotep culture, and I use that term very loosely. It's not 100% accurate, but it's the best way to encapsulate what's going on between Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson, and Tariq Nasheed. There's a competition for who's going to be the blackest voice, particularly black male voice. If you notice, all these have been black men that I've mentioned, but who's going to be the black male voice to black America? And because there's levels of success that can be awarded to you if you are that voice to black America. Because black America, we have our own spoils. We don't necessarily need white America to enrich us because there's wealth in the black community. And if you become the voice of black America to black America, then there's a level of success that you can attain. There's speaking engagements. There's books that you can sell. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views on social media. And then, of course, you have the success that comes when you're the black voice to white America, when you get to speaking engagements at Yale and the speaking engagements at et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a Hotep Civil War going on. There's probably been brewing for a while, and I have generally, this might be the second time in the 4 years that however long I've been doing this, might be the second time that I've actually mentioned Umar Johnson's name on my show. I don't think I've ever mentioned Tariq Nasheed's name on my show, and I'm sure as hell I know for a fact I never mentioned Tommy Sotomayor on my show. And the reason is because I generally don't respect any of their work. I don't respect their approach, and simply because I don't respect it, I've always carried this motto of, if I don't have anything good to say, just don't say anything. Particularly when it comes to black people. I rarely will jump out there and jump into an argument between black people just because I'm like, one thing I don't like doing is arguing amongst brethren in front of company. So for the last few years, I've just completely avoided the conversations about these guys. And they've said things that tread into my realm of politics, right? They've said things that really warrant a response, but I've been careful never to jump into those arguments because it's like, you know, it's a whole brand new level of trolls that you have to deal with, a whole new brand level of ignorance, a level of pseudo-intellectualism that constitutes in this world, it constitutes wokeness, but in reality, it's a level of darkness, in darkness in terms of being blind, right? And it's very egocentric. It's very not just egocentric, but it's also not hero worship, is character driven. It's dependent upon the personality. It's personality worship. And substantive in terms of what they argue, the things that they argue are so far away from normalcy that it's almost like, why are we even having this conversation? And so that's why, if you want to know over the last couple of years why I've never said anything about Umar Johnson or Tariq Nasheed, it's because they dabble in a realm of black culture that is detrimental to black culture, if you ask me. But just because I disagree with them doesn't mean that I have to jump online and pick fights with them. I generally don't operate like that. Well, this morning is different because I've had people, I had a video come across my timeline on Facebook in which Umar Johnson is almost, to me, it's like the culmination of this Hotep civil war. And he's calling out Tariq Nasheed. He's calling out Dr. Boyce Watkins, who Dr. Watkins and I actually have done work together. Boyce Watkins and I did work together. He's one of the first well-known brothers from YouTube who gave me a platform, and still have respect for him today. Don't agree with a lot of his work, with some of his work, I have to say. More specifically, the audience that he's galvanized, that's not my audience. So no disrespect to Dr. Boyce Watkins, but I never could dig his audience. Man, the audience that actually buys into this Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed paradigm, right? So no matter how intelligent Boyce Watkins would speak on his channel, and when you look at the comments and you look at the kind of audience that surrounds him, it's like it's just not for me. Okay. So Umar Johnson has put out a video. Basically, it's not so much that he's calling out Dr. Watkins, because that's besides the point. People do that all the time. It's not that he's calling out Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed needs to be called out. So does Umar Johnson. It's the fact that he was asking his audience who's going to, speaking of himself in third person, who's going to stand with Dr. Johnson? Who's going to stand with whatever his Hotep name is? Who's going to stand with Papa and all this kind of stuff? And in the comment section, I'm looking and people are like, I'm going to stand with you. I'm going to stand with you. And it's like, what type of Jim Jones cyanide-laced Kool-Aid madness is infecting the black community such that we can't with sober eyes look at this man and and I'll get to Tariq in a second, but look at Umar Johnson and see that this is a vanity thing. This is an ego trip for him. This isn't about helping the black community. This has always been about, this is why I really never mention his name on my show, because it's always been about enriching himself at the expense of the black community or with the help of the black community. There's always somebody in our culture who's going to need for the masses to elevate them, to put them on their shoulders and let the masses carry you to your success. And I'm sorry I even gave him that title because I don't know how official it is, but Umar Johnson wanted to start a school and he needed to raise, I think, $1 million. My numbers may be off, but the sentiment is accurate. I think he needed to raise $1 million and he came up with $700,000. This fool put out a video slamming the black community for being no good because they couldn't raise him all the money that he raised. But nigga, they raised you $700,000. Where's the first brick? Where's the first brick for the school? We got what it is. It's the same thing that happens in your barbershop, people. It's the same thing that happens in your barbershop. You have people who are hungry for this revelatory knowledge, right? You have idealistic people who come in, not really have ever experienced anything that can be called an awakening, right? And they're looking for some revelatory knowledge. And what they get is the barber who's going to tell them that the earth is flat. Right. And then as soon as they hear something that challenges the mainstream notion, that person, that idealistic person, that impressionable person who's never had a moment of epiphany in his life or in her life, they listen to this fool describe to them how it's one mass conspiracy, that the world is actually flat. And all of a sudden they have this epiphanic moment where they're like, I'm woke. And then they follow that foolish ideology for the rest of their lives because, like I've said on a previous podcast, instead of getting a revelation and getting a revelatory knowledge or having an epiphany and moving to the next one, people generally make monuments around their first epiphany. And that's how you get somebody who is 50 years old still talking the same foolishness that they were talking when they were 21. So, I mean, this is to Juggernaut Blue, whatever. I just, in terms of the language that I'm using, this is just how I talk in general. I generally censor myself for my YouTube audience. But regardless, let's get back to the conversation. So as you listen to the people who are signing up for Umar Johnson's madness of who's going to stand with him in this pursuit of vanity. It's a pursuit of vanity. It's a pursuit for dominance in the black voice to black America. Not the black voice to white America, because that's a whole different ball. That's two entirely different worlds. But the black voice to black America, in his pursuit for dominance in that arena and his pursuit to destroy, I guess, however you want to say it, rhetorically speaking, Tariq Nasheed, he's got people who almost worship him. And I'm like, at what point did this sickness infect the black community such that they can't look at a character and say that this character is a clown? Same with Tariq. I'm not taking a side in the argument. I'm saying I just generally sit back and when you see the movie, whatever that movie was, you see two monsters fighting, you take a step back and you let them fight. But we're at a point where they're not just fighting with each other. It's causing this madness to seep in and to lock into the black community, the more nationalistic black community. And people are calling it out. Shout out to Tone Talks, Antonio Moore. He's called it out, but he's called it out more for unity's sake, saying that we need to move forward and address the issues of the day, like tax reform, which absolutely is the truth. Those are the things that are going to hurt the black community the most. But, generally those calls for unity are seldom heard because people like this. People like this type of drama. And to me, the problem is that we have the wrong idea of black leadership. Black leadership should not be, and it cannot be what it was in the 60s. It cannot be surrounding one or two or three key figures to be the representatives and to be the voice of black America. Black leadership has been decentralized. And that's not a bad thing. It's been democratized. It's been people who have a voice, have a platform, they can build it for themselves. There's no more gatekeepers. I mean, ask yourself this question: who's a gatekeeper for the black community? People have tried, but today there's no gatekeeper for the black community. Not in terms of a media outlet. BET most certainly is nothing remotely close to a gatekeeper. TV One, not a gatekeeper. There is no gatekeeper for the black community. And maybe for better or for worse, there are pros to that. There's definitely cons to that, but I see mostly pros because that means that no one has to be beholden to characters like Tariq Nasheed and Umar Johnson. Period. Or Ben Dixon or Boyce Watkins. Everybody can have a voice of their own. Everyone can build a platform of their own. But in the case of the democratization of black leadership, just like with everything else, the more people who get into it, the crazier it becomes. And so you would hope that the people and the masses, the people would be able to look at this. And everything that I'm saying right now, before I finish that thought, everything I'm saying right now is applicable, 100% applicable to American politics in general, to foreign policy specifically. I mean, you could apply this. The more access that we have to differing voices, the better voices that rise to the top, yes, but also the crazier voices that rise to the top. I mean, look at Alex Jones, right? He's a product of this democratized leadership and democratized media, and surely he's one of the craziest sons of guns out there. And so this is a natural occurrence. This is nothing that's unexpected. But at the same time, in a democratized world of democratized leadership and democratized media, the body politic has to be that much more wise. You, the viewer, the listener, you have to be that much more discerning. You have to be able to see with, oh my God, I almost said with your third eye. Like that, it's infecting me. I got to go take a bath. But no, you have to be able to see with a discerning spirit and realize some people are not the leader that they espouse to be. The content of their material is questionable at best. Sometimes they say things. Sometimes Umar has said things that I'm like, right on. But I would never share it. I would never talk about it or retweet it because of the body of his work is detrimental to the black community. Tariq Nasheed on Twitter has said some things that I'm like, almost hit that retweet button. But if you look at the entire breadth and depth of his work, it's really nothing that I would ever want to be affiliated with. And then I'm looking at the people who are now signing up for Umar Johnson, standing behind Papa. And I'm like, man, our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And in the absence of leadership, let me tweak this comment a little bit. It's not the absence of leadership, but it's in the presence of a democratized style of leadership where there's no more one or two central figures. There's no more four guys that are at the top, four men that are at the top that you can generally decide which camp you fall under. And we're really in a democratized leadership where it's every man for himself. And in that presence, it's almost like there is no leadership, but there is, right? The leadership, and this as cliche as this is going to sound, the truth of the matter is the leadership is in you, the viewer, the reader, the listener. That's where the leadership resides, because all of us are only as strong as you are. All of us are only going to go as far as you collectively allow us to go. And so the leadership is within you. The wisdom also has to be in you. And you have to be able to look at people and the totality of their work and see if what they're doing is beneficial to your life. Forget this cliche black community, because the black community, it only exists in so much as it is a collection of very unique, very diverse, differing politics, different views of the world. There is no one, and this is the best thing I ever learned from Boyce Watkins, there is no one way to be black. No one way to be black. And so, and people struggle to become that leader, to become the leader of the black community, to be the leader of the black, to be the black voice to black America. The fact of the matter is that they can't ever be the representation of black America. This is why I never would promote myself as a black leader. Not because I have any problem with my blackness, but who am I leading? And what am I leading them to? And what am I leading them from? Black America is so diverse that you can scarcely get 100 black people in one room who would ever see eye to eye on anything. Let alone the millions of black people across America, the diversity of opinion, the diversity of sexuality, orientation, the diversity of politics. So this entire idea that there can be a black leader is a farce at best. The black community isn't a big tent, in so much as everyone is going to fight tooth and nail to have their best interest fomented to the top, and that's that. So this idea of black leadership is a misnomer at best. And then you enter into the equation the black misleadership class. One of the things that I agree with Boyce Watkins on and Yvette Carnell and the Black Agenda Report, one thing I agree with them on is the black misleadership class. And the fact that you have black Democrats who have led the black community, quote unquote, astray. I'm putting all these into air quotations for a reason, right? Because as I see it, as they might be the best representation of what works for me, I see them as misleadership class. And what I mean by that is I would never look at Tariq Nasheed, Umar Johnson, and any of that cabal as any type of potential leadership for who I am, what my family is, what we do. I'm more prone to look at hell, it's hard to say. I don't even know who we look at as for black leadership. I honestly can't say. But I'm more prone, I'm closer to the black misleadership class than I am those guys over there, which is why I criticize the Democratic Party so much, which is why I criticize black leaders who lead the black community, as far as I'm concerned, astray. You know, you can't lead someone astray if they were never following you in the first place, right? So you got the Umar Johnsons and his cabal. They're over there. Nobody in the Democratic Party could ever lead them astray because they're not following each other. But for those of us who conceive the black leadership in the Democratic Party and we say that they could potentially take us somewhere good, we look at them and say, you guys are misleading us because of where you're taking us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I have a critique of them that's very robust and that's very deeply rooted because I feel as though on so many occasions they take us in the wrong direction and somewhere that's detrimental to the class of black folks in which I feel like I could be a part of. In terms of the politics, in terms of the community, in terms of what we aspire to in this country, right? And in terms of those items, I look at the black misleadership class and we have to call them out for what they are. But in terms of like this the broad diversity of blackness across this world, and then you have, I mean, go down the line. I mean, you act as though you have people who act as though there's no gay LGBTQ community in the black community, right? This is the Umar Johnsons of the world who attack a person because they're gay, or they tear them down because of their sexual orientation. And I'm like, wait a minute, do you realize how far back the LGBTQ community is in blackness? You know, I'm cis, I'm straight, but still, can we not rewrite blackness and pretend as though blackness does not have gay and lesbian and bisexual people in it since we've been on this planet? But it's this attempt to make blackness something that one particular group is comfortable with. That is, not only are they comfortable with, but something that they can galvanize into an ideology that they can later turn into dollars and profits. And then we've gone past that Rubicon. We're not even translating into dollars and profits anymore. We're turning it into just outright hero worship based on personality that's not connected to anything substantive whatsoever. And this is where you have the modern day Hotep civil wars. That's what it is. It's not about ideas. It's not about ideologies. Even though I disagree with most of their ideas and I disagree with a lot of their ideologies, it's not even about that anymore, right? And the real victim in this is not Umar, it's not Tariq, it's not any of the people who are making money off of this. It's the audience that they've galvanized over the last few years that is looking to them for leadership. And all they're finding is this deeply rooted personality dispute that's driven by ego and narcissism. So anyway, that's it. That's all I've got for you today. Said my piece. And you guys know where to find me. I'm on Twitter 24 hours a day. See you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.